Make them feel 10 times worse than they made us feel. I want to retaliate. I want to seek vengeance, revenge. Many times we feel within us the sense of wanting to seek revenge. And sometimes through this desire to seek revenge, we may be oppressive. At first, you are oppressed. Someone oppressed you. But as a result, suddenly you become what? You become the oppressor. You become the oppressor. Did Habil have the right to defend himself? Of course he has the right to defend himself. But what he is telling his brother here is that we should always keep God in mind. You don't want to perform an act in which you will be oppressive of someone else. You don't want to oppress anyone. Because we know oppression is something towards others, is something that God does not overlook. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive us. He is the most merciful. He is the most compassionate. He will forgive many of our faults and misdeeds and shortcomings. But He says that when it comes to oppressing others, that's a red line. That's something that God does not overlook. So here Habil is reminding Qabil that you may intend to kill me, but I don't have this intention of retaliation because I do not want to commit an act of oppression and injustice towards you. Why? Because I recognize God. I fear God. God is in my life. This is number 2. And number 3, Habil's third reply to his brother, he says, he reminds him of accountability. It's not just recognizing that God exists, but that there is accountability for our deeds, for what we do in this life. إني أريد أن تبوء بإثمي وإثمك فتكون من أصحاب النار وذلك جزاء الظالمين. Qabil, you will be held accountable for your actions, as I will be held accountable for my actions. And any act of oppression or injustice is accountable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you do this act of injustice, then what will happen? Then you will be punished. You will be held accordingly by Allah. You will be punished. وَذَلِكَ جَزَاءُ الظَّالِمِينَ. And that simply is the result of injustice. God is just. God does not allow injustices to go without accountability. We know every act that we perform, whether it's big, whether it's small, in any aspect of our life, we are held accountable for. The Quran often gives us images of the day of accountability and the results of accountability and how we will be astonished. God speaking on behalf of the oppressors in the Quran, speaking on behalf of the oppressors on the day of judgment. God says that some of them will be shocked. They will look at their record of deeds and they will say, what is it about this record that has left nothing without accountability? Everything. لا يغادر صغيرة ولا كبيرة إلا أحصاها. Things that we had forgotten about. Acts that we had committed. Words that we have said. Things that we did. We forgot about them long ago. But God does not forget. It's there in our record. Every single detail. So Habil reminds his brother Qabil of these reminders. But the Quran tells us that this was of no benefit. What happened? Qabil decided to perform that crime. فطوعت له نفسه قتل أخيه فقتله فأصبح من الخاسرين. The traditions, they tell us that Cain, Qabil, he struggled with himself. He threatened his brother. He said, I'm going to kill you. But then he began, there was an internal struggle within himself. Am I going to actually carry this act out? Am I actually going to kill my brother? He struggled with himself. It wasn't immediate. Quickly he made a threat and immediately he killed his brother. No, he had a struggle with himself. What am I going to do? Am I going to... Quran says, what happened? He allowed himself to be overcome by his evil inclinations. He had this struggle, but he allowed himself to surrender, to lose to his evil inclinations, and thus فَأَصْبَحَ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. He committed the crime and he became of the losers. He lost. He lost. We are always in a constant struggle every single day. Part of our nature, especially as believers, as people of conscience, as people who is why the Prophet, he identifies the greater jihad as what? Jihadun nafs. The struggle of the self. We're always fighting internally. Do we choose good or do we choose bad? It's always a struggle. And what's important is that we become courageous and strong in this struggle. We do not fall prey and victim to our evil inclinations, our lower inclinations. Because if we do that, what happens? Then we weaken our souls. We weaken our nafs. And the Quran tells us that the result of this will be what? Will be loss. There are winners and there are losers. The winners are those who are able to control themselves, not to fall victim to their evil inclinations, to be able to overcome those evil inclinations, no matter how big or small they may be. Now, this is an example of murder. It's enormous, it's big, but we're always struggling even on a small scale. And we have to be able to fight that good fight and to overcome those lower and base desires and inclinations. So what happened?